couldn't believe it. He gave me a slap so hard on my face and I fell back onto the bed. I saw death coming because he had a weapon, a long machete. The blade was bright. Every time I looked at him, he blinded me with the torch. I looked straight on his eyes and I said, I'm not undressing. I was shivering at that moment. He came closer to me, put the machete on my neck. If you're not undressing, I'm going to cut your neck and I will go with it. This stranger had followed me outside. He started pulling me out of the door, threw me on the floor. He kicked me several times. He punched me. My name is Elizabeth Mueni. I'm a mother, an educator, an artist, an author, and a self-care enthusiast. I'm here today to introduce my book, Journeys and Stories. I'll be talking about it. Journeys and Stories is a journey that is inspiring. It has been an inspiration to me. It's been a journey of self-healing, and I've learned so many things along this journey. I wrote the book as a healing process, and Journeys and Stories was born after an attack. The attack almost took my life, but because God had a purpose, I survived an incident that was very dangerous. I therefore encountered an experience that I had never experienced at any time of my life. The journey began with a tickle that was scary. I was in Naivasha. It was in 2018 with my family. My husband wasn't there. My older son wasn't there. He was in school. And I was with my 2 children. And it was raining heavily that night. I can remember the scene clearly, as if it was yesterday. So I felt something tickling me. And I decided to wake up. What do I see in front of me? There was a stranger standing in front of me. He was covered in black, completely, and I could only see his eyes. That means he had hidden his identity. I couldn't see him at all. Luckily, he had a torch, or unluckily, that was a bit scary, but he had a torch, so I could see that it's somebody I didn't know. I actually thought it was my husband, but when I realized he wasn't the one, I knew that I was under an attack. It was a disastrous moment. I couldn't believe it. I decided to cover myself with my duvet. Then I stretched my hand to turn on the lights. The bed switch was behind my head on the wall. So I turned on the lights. And guess what? The lights didn't turn on. Meaning, he had disconnected the lights from outside. So I decided to wake up and stand next to him. He gave me a slap so hard on my face and I fell back onto the bed. I saw death coming because he had a weapon with him, a long machete. The blade was bright and it was shining because he had a torch. So every time I looked at him, he blinded me with the torch. It was a very scary moment for me. And he came closer to me and he asked me for money. And I told him, I don't have money. And he said, give me the money. Nipe pesa. And I said, I don't have money. So at this moment, I started calculating. How do I go down the bed? How do I protect myself? How do I protect my children? My son was actually sleeping in the other bedroom on the other side of the house, on the end of the house. And my daughter was just right next to my bedroom. I decided to make a short prayer. I couldn't pray because my heart was pumping so hard and it was raining heavily outside. I decided, okay, I will come down and try and get a hammer that was under the bed to protect myself. So I came down and stood next to him. And he looked at me and he said, undress. And I told him, I'm not going to undress. I looked straight on his eyes and I said, I'm not undressing. I was shivering at that moment. I calculated the distance between me and the metal door that was on my left-hand side, and the small distance between me and him was not very beneficial. So I knew if I did a mistake, he was going to kill me with the weapon. I tried one more time. He came closer to me. He just walked closer to me. Because I told him I'm not undressing, he came closer to me, put the machete on my neck, and he told me, if you're not undressing, I'm going to cut your neck, and I will go with it. I got puzzled. I was scared, really scared. I was shaking. In fact, I was sweating in the cold nights. And so I used my psychology and I told him, okay, just undressing. There's no problem. I will undress. I played with his psychology. And I waited for him to move a little bit. And I told him, if you move over there, I will undress and I will come to you. So at this moment, I was buying my time. I looked at the metal door and I realized I had not put the padlock on the top latch. But there are two latches, so one on top and one at the bottom. So he moved. He took 2 steps and somehow, I don't know how, I was at the door, opened both latches, and I was outside. It was raining, so I got rained on. I ran to my neighbor's house, started pounding. My neighbor was called Mama Tabe. I started pounding the door and screaming on top of my voice, open the door for me. So my neighbors heard me screaming. Actually, it was not just our house in the compound. There were other several houses. So there's a gate, then you enter inside. On both sides, we have houses. So I saw Mama Tabe's house is the closest. I ran to the house and started pounding onto it. And she woke up because I was screaming on top of my voice. She had a torch on her phone because she tried turning on the lights and there were no lights. So when she came to the window, this stranger had followed me outside. And when he saw the lights on the window, he got so mad. So he slashed the windows and broke them just to scare her. The windows, the pieces of glasses came onto me from the window and they cut me. They injured me badly. I was screaming on top of my voice. And guess what? He started pulling me out of the door, threw me on the floor. He kicked me several times. He punched me. He tried cutting me and slashing me with the machete. And I was getting angrier every single moment. And I started fighting. So we were battling each other. At that moment, there's someone who came from behind. I didn't see that person. Someone came from behind, from the other side, to help me. I realized there was some silence and there was no one close to me. But it was really dark. I couldn't see properly. It was really dark. I continued pounding on the door and immediately, like in a few seconds, this guy came back to me and he started pulling me away from the door because he realized at this moment my voice was too loud and people would come. So I stood by the wall behind me and I tried to save my life. At this moment when he was punching me and trying to cut me with the machete, I was shielding myself with the pillow. I do not know how I went out with the pillow. I've never understood this mystery. It's like a mystery to me how I ran outside with my pillow. So I was using it as a shield. So he kicked me several times and something came up in my mind. I stood by the wall, waited for him to come closer to me, and I kicked him so hard and he fell down. The torch fell down and I saw some light flickering on the wall and I realized he was not closer to me. So I said quickly, I have to run back into the house and close the door. And that's what I did. So I quickly ran back into the house, locked the door and ran through the corridors to the sitting room. I found the door open and that is where he had come in through. I locked the door and I tried opening the door to my son's bedroom. The door was locked from outside. So I opened the door and my son comes out and he was also scared and he tells me, Mom, I saw someone coming inside with a torch. And when I saw it was not Daddy, I went back to bed and I slept. And then he saw him looking under the bed. He came out and he locked him from outside. So all this time when I was fighting outside, he could not come outside. He was locked inside. And the only thing he could have done was keeping quiet. And that's what he did. He kept quiet. He didn't make a sound all that time. So we sat down. And I was trying to calm down. And then after a few moments, I could not move my hand, my right hand, only to realize that my collarbone was broken. I had an injury on my collarbone. When this guy threw me on the floor, he actually pushed me back with his gumboots. He was wearing gumboots. He pushed me back onto the floor. And that's when I got injured. But because my adrenaline was very high, I couldn't tell it at that time. So when I sat down for some few minutes, then I started feeling this throbbing pain. So we kept quiet for some few minutes. And I took a hot shower. I called my husband and I told him what had happened. And he said, I'll be back home very early in the morning. And we made a prayer. And then after a few minutes, my phone rang. That was my neighbor calling. And she said, I just heard silence all of a sudden and I thought you were dead. I'm glad I can hear you. And I told her, do not open the door because I don't think this guy has gone. And so we went to the bed and slept until morning. This story is not just a story. To me, it's an inspiration to many people, and particularly women. Through this story, Journeys and Stories, I have learned so many things. Journeys and Stories is a story of inspiration, but also a self-healing journey. Well, after the incident, anyone can tell, I suffered post-traumatic stress disorder. I could not trust anyone. I was severely injured. My hand was broken. I couldn't move it. So first I had to treat my hand and then embarked on a healing journey. But during this journey, I was also a little bit skeptical of going for therapy. So what did I do? Because I love writing and journaling, I decided to write my story. I started by narrating how I was attacked and what happened after. Slowly by slowly, I built into a huge journal. And then one day, something just clicked onto me that I can put all these bits of stories into a storybook. And I decided to write a memoir. This is how it was born. My story was born out of trauma and out of an assault in my own house. I really want to inspire those who've lost hope and those who feel like they've lost everything. There's always a point where you can start from. Do not give up. You always have something to do. You can start from where you are, use what you have, and use all the tools that you have to build your own journey of healing. All you need is set clear boundaries. Look for people who understand you, because there's a lot of stigma and trauma from people who will tell you, don't talk about this, it's not good, it's scary, it's this and that. Trust yourself. Look for a circle of people you can vent or talk to. You can vent through writing, you can vent through talking to circles of people who understand you. In fact, I would say if you're on a brink of losing your passions, your journeys, your goals, your dreams, through this story, there are different chapters that will help you build your own haven. It's just a matter of opening up and accepting who you are. Do not listen to people, because people come in different colors. And one thing I've learned through this journey is that most people who pretend to be friends are not really friends, because people love seeing people struggling. They do not like seeing you succeeding. So I took a journey of writing my book when I was far away in Sudan, and it was published in 2022. Journeys and Stories can be accessed in many different platforms. You can follow me on Instagram on Journeys and Stories. I also have a YouTube channel, Journeys and Stories Haven, where I tell snippets of journeys and stories. My book can be bought from Nuria Bookstore. It's in town in Moi Avenue in Nairobi, from Bazaar Mall. Journeys and Stories is not just a book. I would leave you with one inspirational quote that I love. Your journey is your own road. You need to walk it alone. Somebody can walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you. Be bold and walk your own journey.